Is there a problem? That's what I asked the moment I stepped onto the plane, but before I could even take 2 steps down the aisle, a voice cut through the chatter. You should probably head to the back where you belong. No shock. Just a cold, familiar sting. I wish I could pretend I hadn't expected it, but sometimes you just know when the energy in the room or plane is off. I stood there holding a first-class boarding pass, and still I felt like I was intruding on something sacred. The flight attendant, tall and crisp in appearance with her hair pinned tight and her expression tighter, approached. Her badge read Sarah Mitchell. Her tone was all edge. Excuse me, young man, you might be a bit lost, she said, her voice carrying just enough to make sure others heard it too. I lifted the boarding pass toward her. Seat 2A first class, no mistake. Paid for it myself. She barely glanced at it before curling her lip. There's been some kind of error, she said, already deciding that the seat couldn't possibly be mine. Her words drew attention. Conversations died around us. Faces turned. She took the pass from my hand like she was examining a counterfeit bill. This looks tampered with, she declared. You'll need to return to economy until we sort this out. Every black kid in America knows this moment. But I wasn't about to budge. Ma'am, I said, keeping my tone even, that ticket is valid. I bought it directly from your website. Someone across the aisle, seat 1B, had pulled out their phone and was now filming. Sarah noticed and instead of dialing it down, raised her voice even more. Sir, don't make this harder than it has to be. I reached into my wallet and pulled out my license, letting my American Express Centurion card catch the light as I did. The kind of card you don't apply for, you're invited. But even that didn't slow her down. I've seen scams like this before, she said coldly. Fake documents, fake cards. These kids will try anything to get a free upgrade. Then came a voice from 1A. Dr. James Park. I'd seen him nod at me earlier while boarding. I watched him check in, he said. He's exactly where he should be. But Sarah wasn't backing off. I'm just following security protocol, she insisted, waving off his words. At that moment my phone buzzed. A message from my dad. Landing in 20. See you at the hotel. Short, simple, ironic since the airline we were flying on? It was his. My father, David Chin Williams, was CEO. But none of that mattered to them. Soon the gate supervisor arrived. Tom Jenkins, older, crooked tie, condescending eyes. Son, I'm going to have to ask you to step off until we verify your identity. Verify what exactly? I asked. I have a valid boarding pass and ID. What more do you need? Watch your tone, he snapped. We've seen people pull this before. Meanwhile, another passenger, Emma Rodriguez, seat 1C, had started live streaming. Her phone camera was aimed at Sarah and Tom. The view count on her screen jumped from a few dozen to several hundred. We're watching Clear Bias on Flight 447, she whispered. The word bias hit the cabin like a flare. Phones came out. Eyes locked on us. I calmly handed Tom my business card. Real leather, my initials embossed. He didn't even glance at it. File a complaint when you land, he chuckled, dismissing me like a kid who wandered into a VIP lounge. Then the pilot's voice came over the intercom. Flight attendants, prepare for departure. Tom radioed ground control, asking for a delay. A ripple of groans rolled through the cabin. I took out my phone. If you don't mind, I said. I'd like to record this interaction for documentation. Sarah tensed. You can't record airline personnel without consent. Dr. Park interrupted. Actually, that's not true. Passengers are legally allowed to record public interactions. Emma's live feed crossed 1,000 viewers. Comments rolled in fast. This is racial profiling, get a lawyer, what airline is this? Then came security. Officers Martinez and Johnson boarded the plane. One looked curious, the other exhausted. What seems to be the issue? Martinez asked. Tom launched into his version of the story, painting me as some opportunist trying to bluff my way into first class. Martinez turned to me. Can I see your ID and boarding pass? I handed them over without a word. He examined them both, held them up to the light, ran his thumb over the barcode. These are fine, he said finally. Sarah still wasn't satisfied. There's just something off, she argued. The way he's dressed, the printing, it doesn't feel right. The viewer count climbed higher. Emma's live feed was now being mirrored on multiple accounts. Dr. Park stood again. "This is beyond unacceptable," he said. "This young man has done absolutely nothing wrong." Officer Johnson, finally pushing past the tension, turned to Sarah. "Ma'am, what exactly made you suspect him of fraud?" She hesitated. "Well, the way I just thought." Her words dried up. Tom jumped in. "We stand by our team." "Based on what?" Dr. Park pressed. My phone buzzed again. "Dad, still in meeting. Text me when you land." I looked at Tom and Sarah. "I think it's time you spoke to my father," I said, dialing. They scoffed. Martinez didn't. He watched carefully as the phone rang. Almost like he knew this was the moment everything would change. The moment I stepped onto the plane, I could feel something was off. People glanced up, then away like I didn't belong. I tried to ignore it, tried to focus on finding my seat. But just as I reached the first-class section, a voice cut through the low murmur of the cabin. "Excuse me, young man. I think you're in the wrong section." The flight attendant, tall with a tidy bun, looked down at my ticket skeptically. I handed it to her without a word. She scanned it, then frowned. "This boarding pass isn't valid." Behind her, a man in uniform, Tom, I later learned, stepped forward to back her up. I stayed calm, pulling out my phone and calling the one person I knew would handle this. The line connected. "Good evening, this is David Chin Williams." The temperature seemed to drop. The attendant paled. Tom's confident stance wavered. "Hi, Dad. I'm on flight 447 to Denver. They're claiming my boarding pass is fake." Silence spread through the cabin. Then Dad's voice came through, low and firm. "Let me speak to the attendant." I held the phone out to her. Her hands trembled as she took it. We didn't know." "Didn't know what?" my father asked. "That he was your son, sir." He didn't miss a beat. "So you treat any black teenager this way?" She couldn't answer. Tom jumped in, claiming it was about my age. My father wasn't having it. "Are you implying young black men can't afford to fly first class?" No response. I raised my school ID for them all to see. Student body president at a prestigious private school, tuition nearly $15,000 a year. "Why didn't you show this earlier?" asked one of the officers. "Because I shouldn't have to," I replied. "My ticket should be enough." "Is this being recorded?" my father asked. "Yes," I said. "It's live. Thousands are watching." "Good," he said. "Miss Mitchell, Mr. Jenkins, what you did wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. And now it's public." The attendant's face crumbled. "I'm so sorry." My dad was firm. "An apology doesn't erase what you've done." Another voice behind me whispered. "The CO just grounded the plane." Viewers online were now in the tens of thousands. I showed the officer my texts with my dad, just regular stuff. Game scores. Homework. The flight's doctor shook his head. "I've never seen anything like this." My dad gave the order. "Marcus, take your seat. Officers, ensure he receives the same treatment as every other passenger." I sat down and slowly first class began to applaud. Then economy joined in. Emma, a passenger who had streamed the whole thing, ended her live with a simple line. 9,000 people just witnessed change. We took off. I opened my laptop and got back to work on my econ assignment. But that day wouldn't be forgotten. Not by Meridian Airlines and not by the public. Later that night, in the company's executive office, my father met with the leadership team, Sarah and Tom. The social media backlash had been immediate and brutal. Over 73,000 negative mentions. A stock dip. Legal teams warned of looming lawsuits. Diversity officers were in full damage control. 47 discrimination complaints this quarter alone, Dad said. Over 500,000 in settlements. This isn't a blip. It's a pattern. Sarah tried to apologize again, but he cut through it. Apologies don't build trust. Actions do. He announced sweeping reforms. Zero tolerance for discrimination, regular anti-bias training, verification through body cameras, live reporting tools in their app, and public audits. Staff were given a choice, termination, or a public apology followed by probation and training. Sarah chose growth. Tom reluctantly did too. Dad prepared for a press release. Meridian launched a $2 million program to prevent discrimination in travel. 6 months later, Sarah herself led diversity sessions, starting each one by holding up a photo of me. My assumptions, she said, cost this company millions and harmed a student who did nothing wrong. Complaint numbers plummeted. Customer satisfaction surged. Federal regulators praised the reforms. Tom, stuck in his ways, was eventually let go. Emma's live stream turned into a documentary. It won awards and was screened before Congress. As for me, I began my first year at college. I took that experience and founded the Dignity and Travel Foundation. It grew quickly, partnering with major airlines to educate and reform. A year later, Meridian's annual report credited $47 million in new revenue to their Dignity initiative. Proof that integrity can be profitable. At Harvard Business School, my case became a model for change. Professors used it to show how corporate responsibility isn't just ethical, it's smart business. By my second year at Stanford, legislation had passed. The Dignity in Transit Act became law, mandating anti-bias training for every travel worker in the country. Sarah, now VP of Inclusion, was seen as a model of accountability and redemption. This wasn't just about one seat on one flight. It was about standing up when it mattered, about dignity, and the power of one voice refusing to be silenced. So now I ask you, have you ever witnessed unfair treatment in travel or service? Do you believe change is possible? Because your voice, your story, could be the one that leads to the next step forward. Let's make sure no one ever hears, "You don't belong here," again.